so he'll be here momentarily.
Copsy, man, you're looking good. It looks like he's in a studio or something. Look at that lighting. Holy crap.
I know he and Dean can go head to head on
I think he wins. He's got a key light, shadows, and he's got a top light, it looks too. Yeah, he's got 3-point lighting there.
Of course, he's got that hair too, you know. It's hard to compete with that. That's just, you know, that's not right.
Hey, that's not fair.
I like the fact that he can't get his mute button to work to come back on it, so we can just keep piling on.
I'm doing it on purpose. Yeah, keeping it off.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Let's see here.
Brian Pena always looks so serious, man. And I know it's not the case.
Did you all know Brian used to be an actor? He's probably going to kill me now that I said that, but.
He's not muted, but we can't hear him.
He did silent films.
His stuff's actually on the internet.
That's funny. Well, we got to find that. We have to find that for sure. For sure.
Hello.
We got a few more people piling in here. Oh,
I'm not sure that bar is what it used to be.
Guys.
There we go. Hello, can you hear me now?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There we go.
Sorry, my camera's doesn't seem to be working today. Hold on one sec.
John, you're super, super soft.
Oh, am I? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that better? Is that better? Okay.
That is
having all kinds of issues on my camera today. Okay, I'm just gonna go with the old FaceTime. Let's see if that works. Yeah, did it? No, still. Oh man, I just restarted my computer too. Sorry guys. I don't know.
Technology is awesome until it's not.
Exactly. And I think the problem is switching between platforms so many times, right? You just kind of get used to it. So I think for this one, I might have to be on the edge here. Hey, Dean, how's it going? Hey, Eric. Nice to see everybody. Let me just change the view here so I can see everybody. Great. Well, welcome. Should we get going?
Do this thing.
Yeah, let's get going. Maybe should we do a little breakout to start? What do you guys think? Okay. Again, apologies for being a couple minutes late.
no problem. So for those of you that are new, I see some new names on the list here. We do a 3 to 5 minute breakout session where you get to kind of do a quick meet and greet in a private room. So I'm going to start this breakout room and introduce yourself, say hello, don't be shy, and do some networking. And as was requested last time, I'll try to get 2 people per room if I can. And we'll see y'all in a few minutes.
Sounds good. How was that? Did everybody enjoy that?
One-on-ones are better, yeah.
Yeah, good. Hey, listen, I thought maybe we'd just go around the room. I know we've done that in the last couple of weeks. Anybody new on the call? Wagner, I know you're new on the call. Welcome. Wagner and I caught up yesterday, or was it the day before? Had an amazing conversation. If you just kind of maybe spend, like under a minute, just introduce yourself and where you're from and what you're thinking about for 2021.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm introducing myself after the breakout because I was feeling very alone and awkward seeing all of you talking. And that's the feeling we feel when we are excluded, isn't it? So everything comes to fruition when you have an experience. But anyway, Wagner Denuso, I am the head of future of work for Prudential. And my focus is to reinvent jobs, reinventing the organization by bringing technology, the people side of things, and really reinventing jobs and reimagining the organization through using AI, using our capabilities to build a different workplace. So that's me in a nutshell.
Great, Wagner. Thanks for being with us today. Anybody else that hasn't had a chance that hasn't been here the last couple times? No?
Yeah, Jill Kite.
Hey, Jill.
Hi. So I'm Jill Kite, and I'm part of a startup company based out of Boulder, although I'm in Palo Alto. And we are very early stage, focused around helping people, especially freelancers, do work differently than what they've done before and organizing their tools. And I had reached out to you guys, and Dwight suggested I join the call and learn a little bit more. So I'm excited to be here and hopefully learn a little bit more, and maybe we have something to offer some of the folks that are part of this group.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jill. Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
For
thank
sure. That's awesome. Hey, so I wanted to give just a couple of quick updates and then we can launch into stuff. We've had a really good, robust set of meetings on the education committee, and we're kind of moving the education committee so that we'll umbrella marketing and the maturity model and the playbook. Jeff, did I forget anything there? That's what we kind of came up with, right?
Yeah, I think those three things.
Yeah.
From the Monday call.
Yeah, and so the idea really is to bring some, clarity and get some consistency. One of the things that Jeff's been amazing at, and Mark Hanat, who obviously it's like 2:00 in the morning over in Mumbai right now, but really been amazing at working on the education committee and building out the framework. And I'm using the framework to create this book that Jen and Kareem and I are writing. On the book front, we got the book proposal done, and I have meetings with publishers next week. So I should have some things to talk about on the next steps with that, but it's looking pretty good. And the idea really is to create the framework that's going to fuel the book, and then the same framework will fuel the training and the certification across both Open Assembly and CTW. So lots of good momentum there. I'm going to be calling on all of you guys because I want to make sure that everybody in the community has the ability to have some kind of input in the book, whether it's a story or an insight or the ability to review some things. So definitely going to want to make sure that you guys all participate. And I don't know, let's see, either Catherine or Brandon, you want to just give people an update on the OA website and then the CTW website?
Sorry, I'm just admitting a few more people into the meeting here. Yeah, so I'll kick off. We revamped our OA site a little bit. It looks more or less the same visually, but we've kind of trying to pitch more of what we do as an organization. So you'll see some new language there and some new product offerings, or they're not necessarily new, but we're making them more front and center. So I'm going to touch on the collective. As you know, the collective is a membership-based, it's more or less like a membership-based mastermind group that kind of drives our thinking and supports our mission. So in return, we help promote these organizations as well as the individuals, many of who are on this call, and create the connections and the higher level thinking through networking, podcasts, content creation, and social media amplification. So if anybody wants to learn more about that, you can reach out to me, and Catherine's going to touch on some other stuff.
Sure, it's Open Assembly hour, or 5 minutes, I guess. Yeah, and so in addition to the collective group, I think that we've come to realize in some calls we've had over the last few weeks that a lot of you all may not know that we also offer consulting programs and project work. So we do sort of bespoke content programs for several clients. Over the last few years, they've run the gamut from like Top Coder and Anadarko, Wipro, and some others. And then we also do sort of just, open talent consulting with companies. So we run executive briefing workshops and interactive workshops. And we really just meet organizations wherever they are in their open talent adoption journey. And we bring in expertise from our network to consult with us. And we, we complement whatever the client needs with folks from our network that we think can add value to whatever the journey is that we're designing for them. We've done some consulting work with like Accenture and Chevron, Accenture and WEF. We've worked with Anadarko in the past, with Rich, also Waters Corporation, Metalsa, Zurich, Top Coder, a whole bunch of folks. So if you or anyone in your network or any of your clients could use some help, please feel free to reach out to any of us.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. So as a reminder that one of the goals of OA is to really build this into a network instead of just traditional consulting practice to help the adoption. I mean, what my vision is and our vision is to really build these frameworks and these tools out and then be able to have a whole community of folks that can actually go out and work with clients on that. So I think that, the case in point that really worked well last year was a project we did with Diane on Chevron, which Diane really drove the thinking. Unfortunately, a little thing like the oil price crisis happened that got in the way of them rethinking their workforce strategy. But that model we want to replicate. And, I feel like we don't want to be in the business of doing our own consulting or running our own workshops. We really want to create a marketplace where we can hand those off to folks that are, trained in the work and that are part of this community and that are really dedicated to seeing things kind of scale. So that's kind of where we're going. Speaking of that, one of the things I know on the CTW side of things that has kind of been a little bit of a black box, and I'm just so excited about because these guys have been doing some good work, is the business model group. And, San's not here today. He's over in Doha, but Eric and Alistair have been really driving those conversations. And I don't know if you guys want to just give a little bit of a preview at a high level of kind of what you guys have been thinking, but lots of great stuff on how do we underpin. I think the goal for me here is like, if we're trying to create, really create mass adoption through an aligned philosophy and an aligned, framework, then how we really make that happen. So take it away, guys.
Go ahead, Alistair.
All right, so I'll give it a first shot. So I think the reason that we are so super excited is that we can create tokens that people can create around maybe your effort and time and what you're going to spend economically. And what's important here is that you can monetize your time, which is rare. So if you work in this space, you should pay careful attention to how you can use your time to monetize or help other people change their lives based on your information that you have, basically. And there's going to be a lot of concentration around that. I can see there's some chin scratching and all sorts of detail. However, what I want to point out to you guys is that if you want to sell your skills, you can do this in our economy based on a tokenized basis. And we are going to introduce something which is based on cryptocurrency. I know it's going to, I'm watching all the faces at the same time and I can't process. So I'm trying to process 120 faces at the same time. It's quite possible. It's quite possible for us to sell and create a new future based on what we create together. So I just want to put that out there, and it's difficult for me to process 125 faces at the same time. Yeah, John, Eric, and people that have worked with me before, you guys are going to know that it takes a bit of time to understand this information. But the whole point is that it's quite possible to tokenize your skill and sell it in the market and make money out of that. So that's what we are chasing. And I hope you guys understand the basic principles of, we are trying to tokenize your intellect into it's like taking intellectual property to tokens to money to a digital process. And I don't know if everybody's going to get that, but
I think that's really great, Alistair. I mean, I think that's, there's going to be a lot of questions, right? And I think that from a higher level, the idea is that, when we've had a lot of discussions around how do we get economic alignment around, philosophical and workflow alignment, and do we want to? I mean, obviously some folks are part of organizations that, just by being a part of this is a community that doesn't need to be monetized. But I think those are all things that we face as a community now and have an open conversation. Alistair's been a great leader in this, and so is Eric. Eric, I don't know if you want to add anything on. Eric and I had a really great, conversation just about economic incentives and alignment today, and just that would be kind of, to me, the tokenization is awesome, but it solves the economic alignment issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think all I would add is that obviously there's always a question with an organization, especially one that's very global and forward thinking in terms of how do you capture and embody the value being created and distribute it among the various stakeholders in a way that aligns incentives and everything. And so I think that given that this by definition is going to be an extremely globally distributed group and very transcending traditional borders, both geographically and across other types of legal jurisdictions and everything, that tokenization will probably allow for the most flexible and open and transparent way of doing this. That being said, we all agree tokenization is a tactic, not a strategy. Obviously, it's a way of capturing the fundamental economic activities and alignments of everyone involved, both us on this call, but also the organizations we partner with and work with. I can certainly think of many times throughout my career when having the ability to encompass the value creation of open talent and for various stakeholders to more directly participate in that would have made my life much easier in terms of aligning various organizations I was attempting to work with. And I think above all, it's not just a means to, it will come in stages as will just about anything involving securitization of something and the formalization within shares of something. But I think also looking forward, even beyond just capturing the value created here, is that those coins can eventually, or this currency can become an indicator of the aggregate market value that's being created and is expected to be created by the type of future of work that we're all pushing for here. The same way that the S&P 500, for example, is not an indication of what are those companies doing today. It's an indication, at least theoretically, of the collective expectation in the world of what's coming for them, adjusted obviously for risk and so forth. And so I think that it will also allow for a way of quantifying the globally understood scale of what can happen from this and the value that can be created from this in a way that hasn't been done yet. And we're starting to see some attempts to capture this pop up around the world, like indices for the future of work. But those are things such as, for example, index of Zoom and Slack and companies that obviously will benefit from increasingly distributed work. But that's not as direct as what we can do here in terms of fundamentally rooting it in the activities that are happening. So we're very excited. I think that we'll make sure that it happens in an orderly process, and we will keep you all apprised as we move along.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Thanks, Alistair. Those are great things. I'm sure that my mind's been blown on these conversations. And I'm just trying to understand exactly what all this means. And, I think the bigger question is, what is the community? What are the values? Steve, I think you brought that up in the context of open innovation, right? Like a lot of people do contests. I mean, Mike and Dave, and obviously other folks that do contests know that one of the big reasons of being involved in those contests is not so much for monetary gain, but also for experience and learning and things like that. So I think capturing all that's going to be, really important. I'd like to open to the floor for a little bit, just maybe 10 minutes or so, just to discuss. I know I've had some conversations, Dave, Mess, with you, and I'm going to talk further with you tomorrow, and then, you know, Chris on the Top Coder team. You and I had a great little conversation on the breakout, and Jeff, you're the resident, you know, legal expert here, and I know you and I've had some conversations as well. And so let's just maybe have a little dialogue here and jump in. I don't know if one of the three of you guys might want to start, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah. Hey, John, this is Jeff.
Yeah, great, Jeff.
Yeah. Hey, guys, thanks for sharing a little bit. You know, I'd love to hear, you know, I'm sort of, I guess, a pragmatist in this group of visionaries. And I'd love to hear from you in terms of like, what does V1 of this look like? Is this really about helping this community of people, this 120 people or 200 people who are contributing to this effort, have some sort of incentive associated with this work? Or is the vision, and is that different than like V2 or V3, which is like, I'm sort of hearing you describe a talent coin that can give us an indication and even move policymakers as to the opportunity globally with open talent, right? And I'm much more comfortable thinking about V1 than where you guys are. I'd love to help me just kind of think about what that first step looks like.
Anybody have thoughts there?
I can
Yeah,
start.
go for
I
it.
guess
Yeah.
Alistair, jump in if you like. Yeah, so I would say V1 is using the collective knowledge and resources of this group to move across the adoption curve in terms of open talent and the future of work, which on the one hand saw tremendous acceleration the last 12 months, but on the other hand is still very much nascent, lacks large-scale enterprise adoption in many respects, and is subject to many what I call invisible barriers still in that respect, what other people sometimes call the corporate immune system, and to allow, and also somewhat fragmented in its approach. There are many huge ecosystem of platforms, but I think that the true mass adoption around the world will require the common paradigm to so that larger organizations can understand exactly what they're doing and how. So I would say version 1 is using is our collective ability to start providing that layer, that new layer of technological abstraction, so to speak, so that it's much more easy for larger organizations to adopt. I would say that then begins the machinery in terms of the economics of this, and that the coins, the talent coin, so to speak, then follows from that as it becomes more dynamic and as it becomes more of a globally distributed group of stakeholders working together. I don't know if that answered any questions or just raised even more of them, but
yeah, I mean, just like a follow-up would be like, if you could just take one organization who's interested in dipping their toe in the water,
exactly,
in terms of open talent, how does the tokenization help them do that?
Well, it's not that the token is more to capture the economic element of the transaction than to directly help them do it, I would say. I would say what truly helps them do it is the framework that we provide as part of the business model. So with John's book and the certifications and the expertise that is combined in terms of making it more of a white glove approach when they are willing to dip their toe into it. And then the tokenization is more of a means of capturing the resulting economic activity and eventually facilitating it potentially as well, in terms of a means of exchange. But I would say consider it similar to just stock in a company at first, basically, which then it can be distributed among various key stakeholders in a way that aligns incentives for further growth around the world as well.
Got it.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jeff. And we definitely want to get you deeper involved in the conversation. Really appreciate that. Hey, Dave Messenger, I know you and Chris have been working on, you know, the tokenization question with the digital wallet stuff over at Top Coder, and I know you guys are definitely, you know, on the cutting edge of that. Any thoughts on this paradigm shift? I mean, you and I have a call scheduled tomorrow, but would love to hear from either you or Chris on kind of some of the thoughts you've come across.
Yeah, I thought it was really exciting. Definitely very interesting. One question for Eric. I maybe a little bit confused on one point. So is the idea that this would eventually almost become like an index fund? Is that because effectively the coin could be used across multiple platforms, thereby, that could kind of, would be an index for the sector? Is that sort of one of the long-term plans?
Yes. Yeah, it can in many ways become I think we can all agree. So, the most valuable commodities in the world are talent and information, and there are not really direct ways to have, indices that allow people to track the rising importance of that, which parts of the world maybe it's underutilized the way we can with other, types of resources that historically were the basis of economies in terms of natural resources, industrial capacity. And like I said, during the last year, because of COVID, like some attempts to provide indices on this did begin popping up, including, for example, stock indices on companies that are, involved in, tools that would be used for the future of work. So the need is there, but those are still sort of secondary ways of tracking. It's kind of still an angled lens on the thing rather than a direct means of seeing the fundamentals itself, basically. So yeah, I would say that's the metaphor in many respects. Yeah.
Dave, any insights on your learning that you and Chris have been doing that might help the group understand the idea?
Do you want to go to?
Go ahead, Chris, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at this for a while now because our community is obviously global, and we're always looking to push benefit down to our community. We could turn around and pay out in a cryptocurrency tomorrow if we really wanted to, but we've looked at how could we capture better value through the issuance of, say, ICOs on individual projects or ICO for the organization as a whole. And sort of do essentially what you're saying. It's like, how do you create shares of something that you can then, give out and dole out, and that could appreciate in value or what have you. So we've gone back and forth. We've looked at a lot of different existing currencies that are out there, like Stellar, which is a low cost international high speed blockchain. So, and you can tokenize on top of those networks as well. So I guess the question is, are we trying to capture value and put that value into the OA? Are we trying to do something more with, say, settlement and smart contracts where, where the transactions are controlled on the platform through this system? Or what are some of the long-term benefits that you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. I think those are things we're just trying to sort out. My sense is we just had a call beforehand with our advisors, Balaji and Diane and Steve, and that was a question as well. And I think that what we want to do, or at least I feel like in the businesses I've started, it's really critical is that you have a set of philosophies of a startup and it's nascent. You don't have a lot of money. You've got a framework you're trying to go to market with, and in order to really hyper, fuel that to really cut the friction out is you've got to have that the underpinning of an economic incentive that's aligned with the two other layers. And so that's what I'm really interested in, is how do we align as an industry around a set of principles and a philosophy that we're really, focused on. As Alistair so poignantly put it, last year, like, let's transform work for 1 billion people by 2025. That's a big audacious goal, and how are we going to get that done? And it means a lot of people with oars, but also kind of being synchronous and stroking in the same direction. So good. Well, any other questions? I know this is super early days, and I really appreciate everybody hitting up on the chat. Lots of ways to think about this, and we're just in the nascent stage. But again, to me, it's all about alignment and thinking about that. Hey, Mike Morris, any thoughts from your side of things?
No. I got my head buried in the playbook that we were discussing last week. So
good.
I think all this has to come together in what's the playbook for somebody that wants to get into this from both sides, right? From the freelancer side and how these new technologies, you know, the tokens and all that are going to mean something to them, and from the customer side on how to get into it. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to come together. There's so many moving pieces out there. Yeah,
Great.
all good.
Good. Okay. Thanks. It's always nice to hear from the OG, the guy who's been running platforms longer than anybody else, for sure. So great to hear. Hey, on another note, you know, we were reflecting, Steve and I were reflecting on, you know, with Balaji and Diane before this call on, you know, why are we doing this? And again, you know, kudos to Alistair for throwing the stake in the ground of transforming work for, you know, 1 billion people for 2025. And then Steve kind of related a conversation he had with David Bosenhagen, who's on the call as well. And I would, you know, Steve's question was, hey, could we have a working group around like what this means for workers, right? And I don't know, I'm not describing it well, Steve or David, but I think there's something important here. And I would encourage, you know, you guys to start a working group around that, because I think it will fuel everything else. So
yeah, I got to share a little with Alistair and Ashley in the breakout as well. And Dave and I had a really good discussion. We'll continue it, but it's really about how do we stay out of the potholes that lie ahead, right? There's a whole new capability coming in, whole new shifts. What are the ways this is going to get abused? What are the ways that this is going to work against kind of the greater good? And so what are the things that we need to be looking at, and what kind of conscience do we need to put on the industry without being overbearing, right? Without trying to come back later and retrofitting. How can we get ahead of that curve? So more to come on that. Anyone who's interested in that, let us know and keep an eye on it.
Great, Steve. Hey, David, any other thoughts on that? You want to add anything? Oh, I think you're on mute, maybe. Oh, are you off mute?
No.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, you know, my tendency is to think in terms of use cases rather than 1 billion people. So, you know, that's sort of what we've been trying to break this down into, you know, more bite-sized problems that we can actually take a bite out of.
Yeah, I love that. I really appreciate your leadership on this, and I love the way this is coming together. Because again, that, you know, that's our North Star. We got to make sure that everything we do, you know, is adding up to that, and that we're taking care of the folks that, you know, need to be taken care of and encouraged, and give a voice to those folks. And then Chris and I had a conversation. I mean, the guys at Topcoder have been working on a digital wallet, Chris and Dave. And Chris had an idea of having a working group for the CTW around digital wallets. And I think that's an awesome idea as well. I mean, Chris, you want to just give a little preview of what that might look like? And, you know, I would encourage anybody who's interested in that to jump in with Chris and figure out what that is.
Yeah, so we're very much driving towards verifiable credentials with Topcoder, and using the trust over IP stack as the underlying infrastructure for that. So what we're doing now is we're trying to get some of the heavy infrastructure pieces in place to support that, and we're building our own digital wallet for Topcoder. But the wallet portion itself, we're going to modularize so that it could be technically utilized by anyone within the OA if they wanted to build their own white label wallet. That wallet would contain verifiable credentials that were interoperable between other members of the OA. So if a member, you know, came to Topcoder and they had their verified credential from Topcoder, said they're certified as a Java developer or what have you, you could take that credential and walk over to TopTal or walk over to somebody else, and you know, they could consume and see that, yeah, Topcoder vouched for them. Or if somebody, you know, did a background check, that can go into their wallet. We can transfer that all around. So we're working on sort of a standards-based wallet right now, or a wrapper around a wallet, I should say, that you can drop into a mobile app and do it yourself. I mean, ultimately, it'd be great if the OA itself had its own mobile app. That'd be cool too. But I think every platform is going to want to have their own flavor of it that they can put into their own stuff. So we're working on that right now. We're working on the management layer of those can't speak today, verifiable credentials, so that, you know, a platform, any platform can plug into sort of the APIs there and issue credentials through this in a common way. So I'd love to get together with other people who are interested in this and sort of perform some standards setting as a working group into, you know, what do we want to see in these credentials? You know, how can we make the credentials extensible and, you know, for your own particular platform flavor. So happy to chat with anybody on all that. So.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That's awesome. I think it's another really important piece of the puzzle, right? How do we do that?
So Chris, when I hear that, like, can we participate? Like, how do we help you? I would love to design and participate in that system.
Yeah,
that's great.
So we're sort of standing up some POC stuff right now to sort of prove it out end to end. I think the next stage for us is to get with, you know, you and other people if you're interested, and sort of figure out how what we've put together could accommodate everybody in a standard sort of a way.
Yeah,
Very good.
awesome.
So after this session, it would be awesome to learn like how your tokens work.
Sure. Yeah. So I can nerd out and go really deep on this call, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's built on trust over IP on the sovereign network, and we're you know, we're sort of a layer 4 application on top of all of that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So
I'll make sure we make the connection, Alistair, so you guys can connect. That'll be great. And anybody else who wants to participate, just connect with Chris. Hey, I know Chris Stanton's on the call from Harvard. Chris, you're always a deep thinker about all this stuff. Any insights into some of the stuff we've been talking about today, or anything else that you've been noodling around with that might apply?
Well, I'm sorry to have missed the early part of the call. I have teaching constraints on Thursdays now, and just finished and then hopped on over here. And so I am remiss that I kind of missed the background around tokenization. One of the questions for the platform folks, and I know that the Top Coder team is seriously involved in this, though, is that if you take the mental model that we kind of teach about platforms, that mental model kind of suggests that you want to make switching costs high if you're a selfish platform, and the tokenization reduces switching costs. And so I would be very curious for the platform folks to think about interoperability and the strategic elements around switching costs.
Sounds like a good subject for some research.
Possibly, yeah.
Well, anybody who's got some thoughts on that, you know, please, you know, jump.
Chris, Chris, if you're bored, send me an email. My name is Alistair Herford, and we can spot some stories.
Absolutely.
Sounds
awesome.
Great.
That sounds great. Very cool. Well, hey, jumping to something a little more mundane. Catherine and Stephanie have been leading the charge on recreating, or actually not recreating, but creating the CTW site, and based on a LMS system, so we can really put the capabilities of a kind of an educational library, some training and certification deeply embedded in that. So, Catherine, you want to just chat for a couple minutes on where you are and what you're thinking about?
Sure. There's not a whole lot that's happened since the last call, but I think that collectively with everyone's input, we've gotten a lot of the sort of like list of requirements kind of behind us, and we understand what we're looking for more than we knew 3 months ago or 3 weeks ago even. So we've dabbled with a few of the platforms. We've sort of tried to create the sitemap that we had shared with everyone within a few of those platforms. We've collected requirements for marketing and that type of thing. And there's one platform that we really like. It's called Learn Worlds, and it seemed like it probably has everything that we could possibly need, but some of the customization was iffy. So we've hired a freelancer on Fiverr who has a lot of experience with lots of the different all-encompassing platforms that do sort of the marketing and learning all in one. And so he owes us kind kind of like a framework that follows our sitemap, and we hope we'll get it back in probably 4 or 5 days. So we hope we'll have something to share with you on the next call.
Thanks, Catherine. That's awesome. Hey, I'd love to just pick the brains of the good folks from the demand side. And as I see now, there's Stephen Lepke from Arrow and obviously Wagner from Prudential, and I'm sure there's some other folks on the call. But any reactions to some of the thinking and the inputs, as you guys are, obviously players that can really change the world through your organizations, or are already doing it in the case of, Stephen, what you're doing with your marketplace and freelancer.
I mean, I think it's absolutely critical for the industry to move in this way. So, I mean, thinking about implementation on our side is, probably the next hurdle after figuring out what the actual framework looks like. But to me, I think it's absolutely critical, and it allows for that transportability of skills that we've been looking at for a long time, and really trying to equal the playing field globally, which is what we really want to do. So,
awesome. Thanks. Wagner, any thoughts?
Many, but it's a little overwhelming to be on this call.
I bet. Yeah.
But I think for us, what's coming to me is this is really important. I think everybody understands the criticality of moving towards an economy that from scarcity we go to abundance. There is a whole movement towards this, and I don't think we can control it. That's the good news. I don't think there's a way back. And I think we need to wait for the wave of leaders that will move on, for the new leaders to start thinking differently about this. I use my mental health background. I try as much as I can, because people feel very threatened by the unknown. So this is a little overwhelming for introduction in companies large as Prudential and more traditional organizations. Of course, the newcomers are already there. Fintechs, insurtechs, they're already there. And in fact, I just had a call with somebody I think we have a chance. Let me put it this way. Our best chance is to find the people who are in incubators inside these companies. I just learned about somebody inside Prudential who is going to be my partner on this. He's talking about all these projects and capstone projects. He's like, we need to do this. We need to do this. I said, okay, after this, I have a call with CTW. And he was talking about all the partnerships that we need. So we need to create an ecosystem. It's very clear to me, nobody does this in isolation. We are tiptoeing into AI with Eightfold and all the talent marketplaces, but those are very geared towards traditional HR. I think this is really different because it's an employee-centric approach to creating opportunity, access, and building capability. So I think it's a totally different game. But I'm a little overwhelmed. Still, maybe next week have a better sense of how.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. I know. I mean, every time I get off these calls, I'm so overwhelmed myself. So, and I can appreciate it from first timers perspective. I want to, Rich, I saw you there, Rich Copsey. I mean, you and I've been on this journey for a long time, with all the kind of workshops we ran with the lab and, Anadarko, and you guys were so far ahead of things on the work you were doing there. And now you're kind of redoing that at Exxon. Any thoughts you have as you can kind of have that longer perspective from the demand side?
Well, I mean, to Wagner's point, I don't want to wait. I'm impatient in that regard. So I can't wait for the leaders to move on. So I'm trying to change the hearts and minds right now. But that's where the crux has lied for me is, at Anadarko, the leadership embraced this approach. And with ExxonMobil, it's a little bit, it's a little bit slower going, if you will, in terms of embracing this. So we're making headway. But I will say the token thing kind of went over my head. I don't know if I am an Aggie, so that may be why. But then when you got into the digital wallet thing, that made a little bit more sense. I do think the challenge, and I think those are relevant. I think the biggest challenge though is how can we continually reduce the friction between the way the enterprises currently do business and the way that we want them to begin to do business, so that it's an easier transition to this new way of doing things, which will eventually be, this is the way for any of you Star Wars fans. Anyway,
to answer that question or add a little bit to that, I mean, when I hear all of this, coin conversation, I'm like, I use enough open talent. I've never felt the need for a coin, so somebody needs to explain how is it beneficial to an enterprise user at scale. Are you solving your problem of your tracking? Then great, you can do that. But I think it's we're missing the translation of how does it benefit the user. And I think there's a between Rich and I and Wagner, there's a range of maturity in using enterprise open talent, and I think people that are earlier on the journey have a different problem versus people that are trying to manage scale. So I think while we're introducing concepts, it's useful to just talk about how does it help in simple ways so that we can put ourselves in those each of those buckets. Okay, I need that, or oh, that's not relevant to me. So would love that. Some clarity there.
I love it. I love it. Good last words. Thanks, Balaji. That's really amazing discussion. As Steve just kind of said, I guess tokens are still illegal in some states. Not, I don't know if that was from Dean or somebody, but a good thing to think about, right? It's like in these emerging markets. I mean, obviously, I live in Colorado where pot's legal and lots of transactions, lots of tax revenue from that, and all the while it's a federal offense. So these are emerging trends, right? That all the legalities aren't going to stay current and be able to keep up with the changes. So
Colorado's like all of Canada, John.
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah, you guys are way ahead of us. Any parting thoughts? What's that, Dean?
That all took a turn Eric was not expecting.
Any last thoughts? What an amazing discussion today. I love you guys so much and love the way this community's coming together and the thoughtfulness, and man, this conversation, if we think back, it's almost been a year, right? Since we've kind of started this journey together, and we've gotten a lot of progress. I think, if last year was all about exploring, as I said, this year is all about capitalizing on all the learnings we have and making sure that, we create this environment that, we all win. That was kind of our, when we started Victors and Spoils back in 2009, that was our slogan. Our mission was that we all win, that everybody in the ecosystem, it has the ability to participate and to win and be better for that kind of being a part of the community. So any other thoughts before we sign off?
I just think to echo, I think the way you really scale an ecosystem is through standardization and through mutually agreed rules, right? That's what the World Trade Organization is all about. That's how you went from the Industrial Revolution of basic customized parts to like standardized parts that were interchangeable. So I think like history really shows that the more we can build out standards, the more we can build out frameworks and contracts between groups and organizations and peoples, just the more fluid the marketplace works, not just marketplace at a platform level, but marketplace as like a global talent level. So, that's where I think that this is going to go, and that's what I'm excited about. So
thanks, Stephen. Really appreciate that. And for those of you who haven't seen the platform that Arrow's created, it's really amazing, and lots of really good innovative work of incumbent creating a marketplace for themselves. So anybody else? Nope. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Look forward to the call in a couple of weeks. Remember that this one was in the afternoon, but we're going to switch it to the morning because
I guess we're switching in the morning.
I can
just because
I can chime in there too.
We're just doing it.
Is every other Thursday in the morning, or is it?
We're doing the first Thursday of every month will be this time, and the third Thursday will be at 10 a.m. Mountain Time.
Okay, I think John cut out right when he was probably explaining the second half.
He's
yeah, sorry, I just had a little cut off. I was just saying, thanks again. I love you guys, and I really appreciate this conversation. It seems crazy that we've been doing this for a year now, but I really love where the conversation's going, and I think it's super important. Just echoing what Stephen said, creating that consistency across the globe is going to really help us accelerate this into the future and help so many people. So have a great weekend, and look forward to it. Hey, one note, next call in 2 weeks is going to be in the morning because so many people can't make the call from Asia, like Mark Hanot, who's done so much great work. And on that call, he's going to bring us up to speed with what's happening with the education committee or the work group, doing so much great work on creating the frameworks and things like that. So anyway, thanks again, guys. Stay safe.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.